All right. 1, 2, 3. It's the battle for Quinn Hughes between the Vancouver Canucks and the New Jersey Devils. Who's going to get him? Find out next year on the crossover. It's Locked On Canucks and Locked On Devils.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to this crossover episode of Locked On Canucks and Locked On Devils. I'm Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks, and today joined by my fellow co-host on Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bhawan, and the pride of New Jersey himself, Trey Matthews. Trey, I have no idea if you're actually from New Jersey, but you do a damn good job representing the New Jersey Devils over there for Locked On Devils. Trey, tumultuous time in Vancouver. We're happy that we're about to go into a long weekend here. But on your end, Trey, how's life? How's things going with you and with Locked On Devils?
You know what? I was disappointed that the Devils were eliminated in the first round by the Hurricanes. Second time that's happened in the past 3 seasons. But you know what? I think the Devils worked with what they were given, which wasn't a lot. They dealt with a magnitude of injuries. So, you know what? It could have been worse, but the Devils improved compared to last year. That's looking at it half full, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was a messy season for the Devils last year, of course. But like you alluded to now, Trey, a lot of injuries going on. So, really, of course, we're going to get into all the Quinn Hughes talk, the Hughes Bull talk here on the crossover episode. But I wanted to preface first by just digging into the postseason autopsy for the New Jersey Devils. Because, when Kyle and I listened into that press conference as outsiders, it sounded like the Devils brass weren't too happy with how things went last season. But maybe for our Locked On Canucks listeners, can you tell us a bit about what happened in the postseason presser with Tom Fitzgerald and Sheldon Keefe?
Well, it seemed like, and I talked about it on my show, that there were difference of opinions between Fitzgerald and Keefe. And here's how Fitzgerald viewed it. He said it wasn't a great season, but it was a good season because they still made the playoffs. But for Sheldon Keefe, he said it was an average season because the Devils were ranked 16th out of 32 teams. And he said, this team is not average. So it was slight, but I felt as though both of them had difference of opinions because good is not average. Let's just, call it how it is. And based on my perspective, I agree with Sheldon Keefe. It was a very mediocre season for the Devils, especially after the Christmas break. It was up and down. They couldn't go on any lengthy winning streaks. You know the most amount of games the Devils won in a row this season? 3. They haven't gone on a 5-game winning streak in like 2 seasons. I'm not even exaggerating. So with the talent that the Devils have, they should not be a mediocre team. But to be fair to Fitzgerald, the Devils did improve compared to last year. Last year, they missed the playoffs entirely. This year, they made the playoffs, and at least they went down swinging. That's all I got to say. When they're missing most of their defensemen, when they're missing Jack Hughes, the Devils took the Hurricanes into 2 double overtime games. They won one, and they lost the game 5. Game 5 was also double overtime. And I would say the Devils are putting up a better fight than the Capitals are right now. So at least the Devils went down swinging. That's all I asked from them.
No, that's honestly a good point, man. That's what you want from your team, and to compare like what your team did versus like what Washington is doing right now. And yeah, you could kind of be like, how is that even possible? Because the Devils were hurt. They were hurt. They were really injured, and they didn't have their best player. And when you don't have your best player going into a playoff series, and you're facing Rob Brendamore and the Carolina Hurricanes, who always win in the first round, like, dude, you're going to lose that series more often than not. And that's why I was so surprised by the energy that Tom Fitzgerald was putting out. But refresh us, like, is he just one of those, like, managing guys that just likes to hold people accountable and, like, likes to raise the standard? Because I feel as if most people going into that press conference maybe would have, been okay with if there was like excuses, for lack of a better term, because you guys were hurt a lot. But there, Tom Fitzgerald was disappointed that you guys didn't win the Stanley Cup this year. He was pissed that you guys didn't win the Stanley Cup without Jack Hughes. That's what it kind of felt like.
Well, it's kind of hard because a few months ago, he said after the trade deadline that the Devils came in second for a particular player. We don't know who he came in second for, but the Devils didn't make the splashy move at the trade deadline like they wanted to. During his exit interview, he said, "We're not going to run it back with the same group. Just wasn't good enough." Now, that doesn't mean he's going to blow it up. That does not mean he's going to trade away the core. I see your eyebrows. Not happening. I listened to that episode, and I want to talk to you about it. But anyway, the core is going to stay intact. But I think what he means is like players like Tomas Tatar, Curtis Lazar, Nathan Bashin. They might need to say a prayer because I don't think they're coming back to the Devils.
Yeah, and it was interesting looking at these two teams this season, Trey, because I feel like they had opposite issues entirely. Where, the Canucks actually, I think they have a decent amount of depth, but they got no star power, especially on offense, right? Quinn Hughes is the exception in Vancouver. And it really felt like with the Devils this season, they had the star power up front, and even in the playoffs, right? It was Hischier and Meyer really leading the charge. Of course, Jack Hughes out there. And Brad as well. Like, those four dogs on offense doing their thing. Jack Hughes when he was healthy, but at the depth that really in the playoffs, it wasn't quite there as much either. So, star power matters more than depth at the end of the day, which is, I think a big reason why the Devils finished ahead of the Canucks in the standings. But, how much of a priority is that in the offseason for the Devils to improve the depth of their team?
Well, it's very important. And I think the Devils are still trying to replace the goal scoring capabilities of Tyler Toffoli, because Toffoli was with the Devils for half a season, but he was an X factor piece. I know at the time before he was dealt away, he was leading the team in goals, but he was not the go-to player. It was Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meier, Nico Hischier. Once again, those are the core players for the Devils, but who really put their offense over the edge? It was Tyler Toffoli. Yes, he wasn't the fastest skater. He wasn't the most physical, but he was very intelligent. He knew where to place himself. He knew how to get himself into certain scoring opportunities, and it showed. So I think one of the reasons why the Devils offense took a bit of a spiral this season is because they're still trying to replace Tyler Toffoli. And what is scoring? Like, what is depth scoring? Fitzy even asked that question during his press conference, which I don't think sit too well with the Devils discourse. But basically, from my perspective, is like outside of your core players, who can you rely on to score night in and night out, and at the same time not go on lengthy cold streaks? So Ekman-Larsson, one of the best net front guys in the league, he had a career high in goals.
He's good.
Curtis Lazar, or no, I'm not Curtis Lazar, Paul Cotter, he had a career high in goals. So by that logic, you're like, well, that's depth scoring right there. But here's the thing. Both of them got off to very hot starts to the season, but they kind of fizzled out as the season progressed. But Ekman-Larsson, one of the driving catalysts on the power play, half of his goals came on the man advantage. But what happens when you run into a great penalty killing team like the Hurricanes? It's not really... unfortunately, it's not as useful as it once was. You got to find other ways to score. And Paul Bissonnette also talked about you can't just rely on your power play to score you goals consistently. So the point I'm just trying to make is, like, outside the core players, who else can give you a goal and not go on lengthy cold streaks?
Yeah. It's interesting how, like you mentioned those specific guys, because I like those players. I like those players a lot.
I like them too. Let me be clear. Ekman-Larsson, one of my favorite players in the league. I'm not even exaggerating. Paul Cotter broke the single season hits record for the Devils.
Yeah, and he's got so much skill too, and there's like a little bit of untapped potential there. And again, we definitely exaggerated the energy coming out of Tom Fitzgerald, because he did mention the whole thing about the depth, and you could kind of tell that he was just really talking about changing, like, I guess, the look of the bottom six and whatnot. And it's it leads me to this, and I guess this is like a Canucks Devils a collaboration here. We got to talk about it. I feel as if a guy that you guys should target if the Canucks don't bring him back is Pius Suter. I don't know how much you know about him, but he just seems as if he seems like a New Jersey Devil already to me. So the whole depth thing, honestly, at the end of our little episode about Jack Hughes a couple weeks ago, Luke Hughes and Duncan to Vancouver, we did say it, like there's no chance of those big moves happening. But if the Devils do fix their bottom six, which they're not not too far away from doing. Like, dude, things could be really, really good for you, and that's mainly also because you got Jacob Markstrom. There's a Canuck relation there. I know he was not consistent the whole time, right? But it's kind of hard to do that for any goalie in the NHL. How was the Jacob Markstrom experience this season?
Well, I would say he was one of actually the Devils' best players, but he got injured in January. And once he recovered from his injury, it was tough for him to, like you said, be consistent. But he really stepped up come the playoffs. So I can't really put too much of the fault on his shoulders. He was the reason why the Devils went down swinging. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But you mentioned Suter. We've actually talked about him before in the Pucks and Pitchforks group chat. It's the site where I also cover the Devils.
Awesome.
He's a Swiss player, so he would fit right in with the Devils because
there you go.
Because the Devils already have Heischer, Meyer, Siegenthaler. And the thing about Suter is that he had 25 goals this past season. I think that can definitely be an option right there. But the question is, how much is he going to ask for?
$4 million.
Between $4 and $5 million, probably.
Okay, that might be doable, but it's just like when it comes to money, it's difficult because Luke Hughes needs a new contract. He's an RFA.
We'll give him one. We'll give Luke a new contract. Don't worry about it.
Here's the problem. No team can give Luke an offer sheet. He doesn't know.
We know. Kyle, you're being so nice to Trey here, being like, oh, what a great season. Have a Luke Hughes Suter. I was going to take the angle of the New Jersey Devils need depth, and they got to trade Jack Luke Hughes to improve that depth. Okay, Kyle, that's the angle you got to take here.
No, that makes them worse. That makes them worse. But anyway, I do want to ask you guys this. And hopefully I don't get in trouble for phrasing this. What the hell happened with Vancouver? Because last season, you guys made the second round of the playoffs. And I was saying this is probably one of the best up-and-coming teams in the league. Quinn Hughes, Norris Trophy winner, JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser. What happened?
Oh man, you know what, Kyle? I'm gonna leave that one to you, Kyle. You collect your thoughts. Let's pause for a quick break here, man, because this boils my blood. There's too much that happened this season, a lot of scar tissue. Let's cut to break here. Hop back into the side here on Locked On Canucks and Locked On Devils, the crossover, baby. If you're looking for playoff tickets to see the Vancouver Canucks or the New Jersey Devils, oh wait. Well, at least you got some playoff games for the New Jersey Devils. But hey, at least the NFL schedule is out now. Trey, are you an NFL guy at all?
I am. I
Giants?
like Lions, actually. Grew up in Michigan.
Okay. All right. Life's good for Trey. Cheering for the Detroit Lions and not the New York Giants. Well, NFL tickets now. If you want to catch a Detroit Lions game, a Seattle Seahawks game, or you got Kyle's Green Bay Packers, make sure you go get those tickets over on Gametime. And you know that Gametime is the place to go because they got the lowest price guarantee, baby. And also what I love about Gametime, you can save huge with zone deals. They pick the best seats in the house for you at the lowest price. And when you're on that Gametime app, you can see the exact seat view from your seat, giving you total confidence at checkout, okay? Gametime, they make scoring NFL tickets just as easy, okay? And on Gametime, you'll find great NFL seats for as low as $100 US, thanks to exclusive discounts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Go download that Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
People, we back doing this, and that's talking about the Devils. The Illuminati. No, not the Illuminati, the hockey team. We're talking about the Canucks, too. And we're talking about the Hughes brothers and whatnot and how some Devils fans are mad at Trevor and I for, I don't know, looking out for ourselves. You think we care about New Jersey? We're trying to keep Quinn Hughes, so we're trying to keep that good energy up there, and we're gonna make some things up. Why not? The Canucks somehow, some way, after sending New Jersey $15 billion, they're gonna bring home one of Luke or Jack Hughes because we want to keep Quinn Hughes. Because if that doesn't happen, then yeah, this season, this past season, Trey just alluded to it. What happened to your Canucks? If Quinn Hughes leaves next season or the season after that to New Jersey, I will want to erase 2024, 2025 from my life. For real. Honestly. Because this shouldn't have happened, but it happened, and it all happened while we have a generational player in Quinn Hughes playing on our team. And it's a damn shame, Trevor. You obviously know it. I'm still not over it, right? Yet yesterday, the Oilers, they made the Western Conference Finals. What are the chances that happens on the day that we hired Adam Foote as our head coach? Life, baby. That's life, Trevor.
Yeah, that's life in Vancouver. And Trey, to answer your question, what happened to the Canucks this season? I'm not sure.
What didn't happen? Everything happened.
What didn't happen? Yeah, you could phrase it that way, but really, it was the story that you and I talked about back in January. It was the Elias Pettersson, JT Miller situation coming to a head. And look, the path for the Canucks to be a Stanley Cup contender hinged on the fact that you had 2 number 1 centers on your hockey team, and then all of a sudden you get one of those guys playing like Philip Deneau, and the other guy who was checked out for half the games he was here this season in JT Miller. And look, we've gotten some more insight on what's happened since then. Pettersson coming into camp out of shape, JT Miller being one of the older guys on the team, not having as many kicks at the can for the Stanley Cup, being frustrated about that, right? And maybe pushing Pettersson and maybe pushing him too hard to get back to where he was. So that's where it all really fell off the rails for your Vancouver Canucks. And the other big thing for me, Trey, was just the injuries this season as well. Last season, the Canucks, or in the 2023-24 season, I should say, the Canucks were extremely healthy, right? You had Demko. He missed some time towards the end of the season once they'd already locked things up. But for the most part, he was healthy in the regular season. Most of the stars were healthy in the regular season. This year was the other way around. I mean, you had, I think it was Jake DeBrusk and Teddy Bluger who led this team in games played. But Pettersson, Hughes, Hronek, Miller, Besser, Demko, all of the key players missed big chunks of time this season. So between those two things, the Canucks were doomed from the start, but really it started with the internal conflict, which bled from the top of the pecking order in the Canucks dressing room all the way to the bottom. And honestly, for the amount of drama and injuries this season in Vancouver, it's almost a mini miracle that they were in sniffing distance of the playoffs. But it doesn't hide the fact that this was one of the most disappointing seasons among many disappointing seasons throughout the 55 years of Vancouver Canucks hockey.
Well, let me just ask you this. Who was in the right, Pettersson or Miller? Now that everything has been laid to rest, Miller's in New York, reunited with the Rangers. Seemed like he made an impact. They didn't make the playoffs, but it's just who was in the right, who was in the wrong, in your opinion?
Neither, man. We don't even, honestly, Trey, on this side, and maybe you'll find out very soon if Quinn Hughes gets to New Jersey, but it's when you have a guy like Quinn Hughes on your team, you just got to take the game serious. And if you're too worried about the inner workings of your relationship and blah, 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 and you're not focused on winning games while you have an incredible player, an incredible captain like Quinn Hughes trying to, Quinn Hughes this season tried everything before he got hurt to make this team a playoff team for real, all by himself. And for me, there's no excuse. You can't even give one person the benefit of the doubt when it comes to Miller and Pettersson and their beef this season. It's both of y'all screwed up. You guys screwed up. When you have a guy like Quinn Hughes on your team, just take the game serious, figure your stuff out, and let's go win some games. So to me, it's I'll get over it, but right now I hate both of them. Still, I'll get over it though. I'm gonna go for a walk, meditate. I'm gonna breathe some air, hug my girlfriend. I'll get over this, but right now, no, neither of these guys deserve the benefit of the doubt. Trevor and Trey.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Trey, it's I side with Kyle. I mean, we wouldn't even be having this potential conversation about Quinn Hughes going to New Jersey if those guys got their heads out of their own asses and just played hockey, right? We would not even be having this conversation right now. But instead, here we are. Not that we're not happy to see you, but here we are talking about Quinn Hughes potentially going to the New Jersey Devils. Or hey, maybe it's the other way around. Hey, Trey.
I'm going to save you some time. I don't see any scenario where one or both those Hughes brothers join Quinn in Vancouver, but I did want to mention this. I talked about it on my show just a couple days ago. Jim Rutherford's idiotic comments, with all due respect. Look, I get it. I think the goal is to keep Quinn Hughes. Like, I don't think the Canucks are gonna like. I don't think they want to move on from him. But yes, you will be put into a unique position, which is Quinn has said that he does not want to be a part of a rebuild. But Jim went a step further and said, like, Quinn wants to play with his brothers. He said that publicly. And the problem you have with that is that Quinn is going to be a UFA in 2 years. And I think Jim Rutherford shot himself in the foot right here, because it's just like, why would you publicly admit that? Because now you've lost some leverage, because you might scare away some teams who don't want to take a risk on Quinn, because what if he leaves in free agency for nothing? We already saw the Mikko Rantanen drama with the Hurricanes, where it doesn't work out and you got to get rid of him ASAP. And it's just like, why would you do that? Like, and the thing is, Quinn doesn't have a no trade clause, so you could trade him whenever, but you went out, publicly admitted that, and now you just gave New Jersey, I would say, a better chance, because it's like, oh, the Devils don't have to give up much to get Quinn, or they could just wait until 2027 rolls around, because there's some key players that will be off the books for the Devils come the 2027 offseason.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and Trey, I agree with you for the most part there. I think Jim Rutherford absolutely did shoot himself in the foot. I mean, it's entertaining for us as hockey podcasters, but as a guy in a management position, as a guy who's negotiating trades, negotiating contracts, didn't make a lot of sense for him to publicly say that, not to mention risk the tampering charges, which he ended up not getting at the end of the day. I will say, though, your point about Quinn Hughes and maybe the Canucks lacking some leverages, I do think it's a different situation with Quinn Hughes just because of the caliber of player he is. I mean, you mentioned Mikko Rantanen, the 12 games in Carolina didn't work out so well, but I think you're just talking about even a different caliber of player in Quinn Hughes. And then all due respect to Mikko Rantanen, who's been amazing in these playoffs, but Quinn Hughes it's really him and Cale Makar. Those are the two best defensemen in the NHL right now.
And let me make this clear. I'm not trying to compare like Hughes and Rantanen. I know Quinn is one of, if not the best defenseman in the NHL. He's a finalist for the Norris Trophy once again, alongside his Michigan buddy, Zach Werenski. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, if we're being honest here, do the Canucks win any sort of deal in a trade scenario for Hughes? No. But you might have just made it worse on yourself. That's my thing, because if you don't trade him this year, then what's going to happen next year? Like, and he doesn't want to re-sign.
Yeah, I know.
Like that value goes down a little bit more, because teams might just view him as a rental. They might take a flyer on him, but it's just like, I talked about on my show, why would the Devils give up a lot to get Quinn when they can wait until 2027? The only risk you run into is that maybe he's traded, he ends up liking that team, and he signs an extension there. But Quinn has said that his goal is to play with his brothers.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about that is, like, Rutherford said what he said, and then I think like a week after in a different interview, he pretty much alluded to the fact that he made that up. Now, I guarantee.
That's even worse. That's even worse.
No, I guarantee he's lying. Like, he's lying. He's just, honestly, like, he's an honest guy. He's really frank, but I think he just wants to take it back just to quiet down the noise. And maybe Gary Bettman told him, like, yo, retract the statement. You know what I'm saying? On that note, though, like, you asked the question.
Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
During that press conference, like after he said like the Quinn Hughes thing, like there was just a dead silence among the media after he made his comments.
Yeah.
I think they were like, wait, what? I think the media was like, wait, what do we do? Was that a joke? Was he serious? Like, because it's like he was way too honest.
Yeah, I think Canucks PR cut that off pretty quick at the end of it. It was towards the end of the presser, and I think everyone was so stunned. And then Canucks PR is like, okay, thank you.
Dude, you got to watch that. He's actually pure comedy, man. Like, I was actually thinking about this yesterday because I was listening to another interview with him, because I'm actually pretty fascinated with Jim Rutherford. I think he's like won Stanley Cups and whatnot, and right now he's old and maybe a little senile. I don't know. Who knows? But he's cool. He's a cool guy. He's entertaining. I'm not gonna lie. I gotta listen to that guy speak all day. On that note, though, you did mention why would the Devils trade for him now when they can wait for a couple of years to get him for free, quote unquote? It's like, if I'm the Devils and I'm Tom Fitzgerald, I'm still willing to give up the most right now just because you have Quinn Hughes for 2 more years at this age, at 25 years old. Like, I don't know if everyone, I still don't know this. And maybe you watch a lot of Quinn Hughes because you got Jack and Luke on your team, and like maybe you're connected to the Hughes, like the Hughes aura like that, and you want to see it all happen. But if I'm any team, I'm not waiting for 2027 to get a guy for free when he's that good. Like, yo, just get him now and try to win now because he's uber serious. Like, he's a super serious competitor. He's such a good captain, such a good leader. Again, I'll say it again, uber serious. He always gets better. He's so talented. And in my opinion, he's generational. And if the New Jersey Devils, they give up a lot for him right now, this summer, let's say, and I keep bringing up this joke, but I think it's the truth. Elias Pettersson, let's say he's not working out and he doesn't look any stronger come like June. Maybe this team's like, you know what? We're not going to win next year. Let's just start the rebuild now. Let's just trade Quinn Hughes. I don't know. Let's say you guys trade for him and you guys give up a lot. It might hurt initially because you're like, oh, we could have gotten him for free. Why did we give up the extra first round pick? Or why did we give away our top prospect? Blah, blah, blah. And I think in a month, you'll be like, oh, never mind. Because now we got this guy for 24 extra months in this thing called my life. And within those 2 years, 2026, 2025, 2026, 2026, 2027, you guys become, cup favorites because he's that good. He's that good. Like, so damn good.
He is really good. But my thing is, like, what would the trade package look like? If it's the right trade package, then sure. But what does that look like? That's my question. Because I saw Larry Brooks put out a hypothetical trade package. I don't know if you guys saw it, but
I did, yeah.
My Twitter was blown up with notifications as soon as I put that out. I had to remind everyone, this is not my trade package. So Dawson Mercer, a first-round pick, I think that's a given. One of Seamus Casey or Shimon Nemitz, and one of Anton Salayev or Arseny Gritsyuk. I'm just like, I mean, the two Russians, that might be a lot. Seamus Casey or Shimon Nemitz, I don't really know, because it's like, let's look at another example, shall we? My bosses over at Pucks and Pitchforks brought this up. Do you think that's more or less than what Ottawa got in the Erik Karlsson trade a few years ago? Is that more or less?
Oh, that's a good question. Let's pull up the Karlsson trade for the listeners as well, just so we can break it down together here. But so when Erik Karlsson got traded from the Ottawa Senators to the San Jose Sharks, it was for Josh Norris, Rudolph Balcers, Chris Tierney, Dylan DeMello, a round 2 pick, a round 1 pick, which ended up being Tim Stützle, and Zach Ostenchuk, another round 1 pick. So,
shout out to former Devil Chris Tierney.
Yeah, I got Chris Tierney in the mix too. So, I would think that the Senators got more than the Devils doing that, or the Canucks doing that hypothetical trade, because you got a couple firsts in there. One being Tim Stützle was 3rd overall. And then Josh Norris, who was a first-round pick as well. Dylan DeMello, good prospect or good young defenseman at that point. Tierney, a good middle six player. Again, I think when you're trading for superstars, and I think Quinn level's at a level above Erik Karlsson.
But some of those players are playing overseas now, like Chris Tierney. I don't think he's in the NHL right now. I think he's overseas.
Right, but he was playing as early as last year, right? This is a trade from 2018. You're talking about a trade from 7 years ago, right? So
he was on the Devils.
I think that's the kind of the floor of what you give up for a guy like Quinn Hughes. Now, of course, the Devils are in a unique situation where, maybe they can get him in 2 years for free, so they don't want to give up as much, right? But like Kyle's alluding to, I think a lot can happen in 2 years in the NHL. So maybe as we wrap up here on the other side on the crossover episode, let's dive a bit deeper into this trade talk, talk about what Trey would give up for Quinn Hughes and what he'd be willing to take in return for Luke Hughes. That's coming up here on the crossover, Locked On Devils and Locked On Canucks.
Okay, we back doing this, talking about the Devils, talking about the Canucks, talking about the Hughes brothers with Trey and Trevor and Kyle. And let's get right into this, man. How about this proposal, okay? If we're going to trade Quinn Hughes to the Devils, give us Luke.
No.
What?
Not going to happen.
Dude, you got to,
I know. I know. But here's the thing. You still run the risk, though, because Quinn could be up and out of there, up and out in New Jersey in 2 years. It's like, no.
That's what I was thinking, bro. Come on, man. 1 for 1 to come back Quinn in a couple years.
1 for 1. Oh my God.
For Fitzy, he's probably thinking, well, that makes no sense because he wants all Hughes brothers in New Jersey. No.
Dude, I'm telling you, if the
There will
Devils
be a riot. There will be a riot at the Prudential Center if Luke Hughes is traded.
If it's Luke for Quinn, I'm telling you, there's not going to be a riot. There's not going to be a riot. Quinn is just too good. Quinn is like 3 times better than Luke Hughes, man. I'm telling you. I know Luke's got potential.
Yeah, it's the potential. That's
actually, you know what? No, talk about this. Like the Devils have. I don't even want to say they've been up and down. Like I think like again fair enough. I think I'm saying that because I'm just a Canucks fan. And I'm like my standard of like good is like if I was the Devils right now, I'd be sleeping well at night. Okay, considering what I've gone through over the last 10 years. Okay, all in all though. Like what is the relationship with the fan base and the Hughes brothers? By you're taking right now, it's like everyone still loves them, and that's what I was telling the people too. Like Jack, just especially with Jack, like I know he's been injured and he's missed like 100+ games in 2 or 3 years or whatever, blah blah blah. But like, why he has the best contract in the NHL, and like why would the Devils ever want to trade that guy? Like he's like Mr. Hockey, right? Like I don't know, it feels like that. And maybe one day, like, he stops getting hurt. Like, maybe Tom Fitzgerald to kind of, I wouldn't say challenge him to, get into better shape or, build stronger shoulders or whatnot. But maybe he gets it. And if I'm, like, any team with Jack Hughes under that contract, he's probably, like, one of the most untouchable guys in hockey.
Yeah, you're right. And actually, it's funny you mention it. Jack Hughes could theoretically be traded at any given moment, but obviously it's not going to happen. He has a modified no trade clause that does not kick in until the 2026 offseason. So theoretically, the Devils could trade him, but obviously that's not going to happen. You see, he was actually asked this during exit interviews, like, is there a concern with Jack Hughes? And he said concern's not the right word, but it's just like, it's difficult just because Jack's a superstar player. You don't trade him away. But at the same time, you can't continue to do this same song and dance routine where it's like high expectations for him. He plays well, then boom, he gets hurt, because this is the second year in a row that he's had season-ending shoulder surgery. So it's just like, you can't continue to do this. And I even said it before the start of this season. You can't do this. But I don't know. It's like you don't trade him away. You just gotta, unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, you got to ride it out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, we were having similar conversation, not on the injury front, but Pettersson being an untouchable, and look where that's gone in Vancouver now. Trey, let's get to a couple of trade proposals, I guess, before we get out of here. I'm not even going to call this a trade proposal because I know you're going to shut down the Luke Hughes stuff, but I'm gonna frame it this way. What is Luke Hughes' trade value? And I want to say part of the reason why I'm even asking this, aside from the Canucks perspective, is when I look at the Devils, when I look at their pipeline, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like most of their top prospects are defensemen. Like, even when I'm looking at the Athletics prospect rankings from February now, it's the top forward prospects. Lenny Hamiano. I butchered that. Herman Traff. Matthias Malofsky. It's like, these guys aren't, grade A prospects. It looks like the Devils really do need more forward help from, again, an outsider's point of view moving forward. So with that being said, when you look at a guy like Luke Hughes, if you offer sheeted him, he's probably in that first, second, and third category. But what really is the trade value for Luke Hughes?
I've never really thought about it because he's never going to be traded. I would say rather hypothetically high, but it's just like, you don't trade someone like Luke Hughes. Now, I'll compromise with you. The Devils do have some top defensive prospects, including Anton Salayev, Seamus Casey, who maybe could convert to a forward. I don't really know, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's too late. Ethan Edwards and Shimo Nemitz. I think Nemitz really put himself into a better light come the playoffs. He was really good. So those are some of your top defensive prospects. If you are hypothetically going to form a trade, it's going to be anybody but Luke Hughes. Shimo Nemitz, he could be dealt away. Ethan Edwards could be dealt away. Seamus Casey could be dealt away. Maybe Anton Salayev. It depends on the package deal. But I did bring it up on my show, which is since Seamus Casey is now under entry-level contract, same with Ethan Edwards and Shimo Nemitz, it's like, what do you do? That's the question. So I've talked about it with my colleagues over at Pucks and Pitchforks. We do believe that out of those three, Ethan Edwards, Seamus Casey, and Shimo Nemitz, one of them could be dealt away to get a quote-unquote splashy deal done. But I don't think it's likely. And at the same time, I think Luke Hughes is one of the players on the team that's just untouchable.
No, that's cool, man. Again, like it kind of breaks my heart because I desperately want to keep Quinn Hughes, and even though
he might, there's no guarantee that he's out of there. He hasn't. It's not like the NBA where he's gonna come out and say, "I want out. I want to be traded" or something like that.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of depressed. Okay, as you can tell, I'm just in a dark place with the Canucks right now, and if Quinn Hughes leaves, I'm not gonna leave, but some part of me is gonna leave or doubt. Anything is possible because to me, and Trey, have you been a Devils fan in your whole life? Like it's a 20-year thing. 20. Okay, so for me, it's like,
well, I'm 25, so not really. But
so you've been a fan for 30 years. Okay, for me, it's like it's like the Scott Niedermayer thing. When I see Quinn Hughes, and even though I think Quinn Hughes, even though when I see Quinn Hughes, I think he's more offensively talented than Scott Niedermayer, but just their demeanors are so similar. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. And it's like, it's a scary thing to say. Maybe Trevor's gonna have to close down the show before I say this. It would be ironic. It would be ironic, not just because of the whole like trifecta Hughes thing happening in the Illuminati capital of the world, New Jersey Devils, but it's like, yo, this is Scott Niedermayer 2.0, for real. And he gets to the Devils, boom, bam. I mean, it'd be great for the game. It'd be bad for me, but like, dude, this is making me so sad. Trevor, shut me up because the more I talk to Trey, it's like, yo, Hughes brothers are never getting traded. They're never getting traded for nobody. We don't even have a deep prospect pool. We don't even have JT. It's not happening, bro. The Canucks are not getting the Hughes brothers. And if we don't win ASAP, Quinn Hughes is joining the Illuminati, man. So, okay, Trevor.
You are right. He has been compared to Scott Niedermayer.
Yeah.
So you are correct about that.
I'm heartbroken.
Yeah, I guess last thing for me, and Trey, you alluded to the trade that Larry Brooks put out there. Maybe I'll ask it twofold. Do you see a trade for Quinn Hughes being likely before his contract expires? And if so, what would you be giving up if you were the Devils GM?
I mean, I mean, based on how the Canucks are going, based on like Quinn saying he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild, I think Jim Rutherford also confirmed that. And I think you might have no choice. Like, I would say you have to see how this season goes. And if it's an absolute dumpster fire, you might have to strike when the iron is hot because Quinn's value, regardless of how good he is going to go down because like if the more you eat into that contract, the less time a potential suitor has with him. So like, let's just say this season doesn't go well and you still have him. He has 1 year remaining on his contract and there's no guarantee that he's going to sign an extension with whatever team you trade him to. So that value might go down a little bit. So it's why I said earlier in the show, any trade scenario you might have for Quinn Hughes, no matter how good he is, you might end up losing it. You never know. But I would say this, if the Devils were to make a trade for Quinn right here, right now, I think Dawson Mercer will be included. That's a given. A first round pick, definitely. Maybe a prospect. You could pick or choose. I don't think the Devils are going to look to trade away any of their talents from Russia, including Anton Salayev, Arseny Gritsyuk, or Mike Yegorov. I don't think the Devils are going to part ways with any of their Russian players. Some people have said, like, maybe Dougie Hamilton, but he has a no movement clause. Andre Palat has a no movement clause. So I know this is not what Canucks fans want to hear, but it's just like there's no way Fitzy is going to part ways with players like Jesper Bratt or Nico Hischier for a player that's going to be a UFA in 2 years. And to add insult to injury, in 2027, here's who's going to be UFAs for the Devils. Andre Palat, his 5-year, $30 million contract off the table. Brendan Dillon, his 3-year, $12 million contract off the table. Nico Hischier, his 7-year, $50.75 million deal off the table, but the Devils are going to work on an extension with him. I don't think that's anything to worry about, but I'm just stating a fact. Dougie Hamilton, final year of his lengthy contract. Jonas Siegenthaler, final year of his lengthy contract. So it's just like the money will, I say, go up for the Devils. The cap is also going to go up. So I'm sorry, Canucks fans. This is not. I know this is not what you want to hear. But the reality of it is like trades are an investment.
It's buddy, it's a business. It's a business, and now that you broke down all that math, I feel like y'all already knew you guys were getting Quinn Hughes in 2027, man. Based on all these all these things you're talking about, this is crazy, man. I'm scared. I'm scared for my life. This was the scariest conversation I had in my hockey conversation I had in my life, and I'm sorry to my soul, man. I'm sorry to the people that got to hang out with me today. Thanks, Trey. Thanks, buddy.
I don't know if to say you're welcome or not, because I don't want to come off as a smartass.
He's wearing the Canada hat. Maybe he's trying to make it up to us that way, Kyle.
Dude.
But
Come on, man.
I love Canada.
Can I say a couple more things just before, quickly? Okay, so honestly, Trey, like if you guys get Pius Suter, I'm telling you, you guys are gonna love him because he's super smart and he's a good penalty killer. And I don't know if he's gonna get 25 for you, but something always tells me he's gonna get like 17 or 18, and he's good in the playoffs, in my opinion. And then the second thing,
if he can spread out that scoring, then that's good.
Whatever, right? And then the second thing I want to say is, Jesper Bratt might be like by far and away the most underrated player in hockey. Like, what a talent! He might be Sweden's best forward. Like, he's so damn good. And yeah, if you guys get Quinn Hughes and like keep all the pieces at the top, bro, you guys are. That's why you trade for him now. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe at the deadline next year. Like, I know you can get him for free, but it's like, y'all can win the cup now. And I'm sorry, Canucks fans.
We've been having that conversation for past couple of years. Like, if the Devils got more physicality and a better goalie, they'll be cup contenders. They did so. Still some work to be done.
Yeah, 100%. I think my closing thoughts here are, the Canucks, again, better win this season because, we talked about it on our show, Trey, but if the Canucks do have a bad season, the most you're going to get for Quinn Hughes is at the March 2026 trade deadline. And I think his value will be higher than what you're alluding to. You talk about Mercer, the first, and a prospect. Like that's more or less what Brock.
Let me be clear. That's just a starting point. I'm not saying that's the final package. I don't need any angry Canucks fans coming at me, but you're not going to get Hischier, Bratt, or one of the Hughes brothers.
Yeah, and I think, you look at that package as a start, like you're saying. I mean, that's more or less what Brock Nelson got at the deadline. And, 2 years of Quinn Hughes, one of the best defensemen in the NHL, will get the Canucks a lot. But, of course, we hope we aren't in that conversation. Will we be? Time will tell under the new tutelage of Adam Foote. More on that on Locked On Canucks. But, Trey, appreciate you hopping on. Good to see you as much as this has been a bit of a depressing converation for Kyle.
It was depressing.
I feel better, but thank you guys.
Well, one love to you, Trey. Shout out to Locked On Devils, all the listeners over there. Shout out to Locked On Canucks. For all our shows, make sure you go subscribe and like them on YouTube, on the podcast side. Go follow them, leave a 5-star review, and make sure you check out the Locked On NHL show as well. On behalf of all of us, I'm Trevor Beggs, my co-host Kyle Bhawan, Trey Matthews from Locked On Devils. We appreciate you tuning in to the crossover episode here, Locked On Canucks and Locked On Devils.
Peace, peace, peace.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.